So Aaron, the next thing I was going to ask you, obviously you've come from a background, some people will know of it, some people won't, but that's irrespective. Because of that, you've encountered a certain level of prejudice in your work, which has made things very difficult for you. I know you've talked about it in length to me. But
yeah, you'd expect the opposite, no prejudice, but yeah, it's I think people they categorize where I'm born, where I come from is something that people are much more observant about. It's categorized in a much more distinguishable way. So obviously there is more prejudice to appear from it for that reason. But mostly what I would refer to would be being boycotted. You won't hear very much about the writing that's come from me because my mother is the lead singer of Boney M, and because the writing is written from a sovereignty that isn't titular.
So let's go into that into more depth, if you wouldn't mind. You speak of sovereignty a lot. Define that for us.
Define sovereignty. Well, I remember a famous African philosopher defined sovereignty as the power to decide who will live and who will die. Of course, that was in Africa at the time when the British Empire was colonizing the continent, the African continent, yeah. And those were his words to describe the sovereign empire that was England.
Right.
I wouldn't go so far as to say my sovereignty is definable in that way. I would say my sovereignty really only it only elaborates on being able to function as an individual unit of God.
Okay.
And the reason I classify myself as a sovereign is because when I was born, when I was conceived, my mother was on TV. There were newspaper articles about my birth, and it stirred a movement which affected the course of my life.
Yes.
And if you believe in God, then obviously you know that God is a power above and beyond us. You'll understand that with God playing such a broad part in my life, where other lives are given much more choice. It created a distinction about me, which I recognized after all of the trials, like being forced to write books that were not including profanity, sex, violence. I mean, I wasn't forced to write them, but that's what I chose to write, and I was choosing to write them because I could recognize a sovereign identity, and that identity is what I chose to protect, and it's that identity that was prejudiced. Because obviously I'm not a prince, I'm not a duke, I'm not a count. I'm quite simply the son of a pop star, one of the biggest pop stars of the disco era.
Yeah.
And that causes a lot of conflict where you know where titular recognition is given. You know, how do I stand up and call myself a monarch? You know, or even an aristocrat for that matter. It's very taboo. The next thing you could imagine is me having a tete-a-tete with Prince William, and oh dear, who would that concern? You know, the Nationalist Party would be in a state of awry for that. So there is an awful lot of prejudice that people just cannot fathom, they cannot imagine, which is again the reason why I wrote The Real Earth G, Soil for Sovereign, is because the book teaches us how to respond to that oppression. the being enforced, the way we are enforced to be a category that is controlled, as opposed to aspiring to what we're capable of achieving, what we're capable of standing as.